morning, Vinru. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Varun. Thank you for inviting me.
We've been hearing a lot about how Ping An Group and OneConnect are expanding in ASEAN. So would you be able to share a bit about the story on how OneConnect is there and how it's connected to the Ping An Group, and what are you guys trying to accomplish in ASEAN?
Definitely. So Ping An is the largest insurance in China. We also have the Ping An Bank, we also have Ping An Securities. All in all, we have about 30 subsidiaries in China. So Ping An is number 29 on the Fortune 500 list, so a big conglomerate in China, but only in China. So 3 years ago, we started the FinTech arm of the Ping An Group, simply because of the investments that we put in technology, that we have filed so many patents, it doesn't make sense not to use these patents. And so we started OneConnect, which is the FinTech arm. We basically commercialize the technologies that the Ping An Group uses. And then we modularize and we commercialize it so that it can be adopted by other commercial banks, insurance companies. The model has proven to be very successful in China, and therefore Singapore started last year. So OneConnect Singapore will take care of Southeast Asia as a first priority market in order to do the same thing for OneConnect China.
So as you're probably like a new kid on the block in terms of bringing technology and technology stacks into ASEAN, what are the kind of challenges and what kind of opportunities you see in ASEAN? Do you see financial institutions very receptive to new technology stacks from China? Do you see them trying to benchmark? Do you see the banks still trying to find the right place and need? So where do you see the opportunity and pockets in ASEAN?
I think the opportunity is immense. I'll probably break it into different segments of customer segments. Maybe the larger insurance or the banks will be one segment. And then the rest will be maybe a separate segment. The smaller ones or the mid-sized one will be a separate segment. So definitely for the middle size or the smaller banks, they realize how hard it is to digitize anything on their own. They also realize that it's a lot of investment trying to do technology as well as managing their core business. Yeah. So they're very, very receptive to FinTech solutions. Wow. So I'm seeing actually a lot of opportunities in that space. For the larger banks, especially in the developed markets like say Hong Kong and Singapore, they're large enough banks to try and do something on their own. Right, so the larger banks have invested in AI labs, they have invested in technology since a while ago. They still will look at FinTech solutions for sure. And my personal point of view, maybe a little bit less in-depth collaboration compared to the other banks that will adopt the solution in whole.
Yeah. And in terms of solution maturity levels, so how mature do you think the startups are there in ASEAN versus the startups in China or the Ping An technology stack? So in terms of the maturity levels, where do you see like any specific areas where either the companies here or companies in China are stronger or weaker? Where do you see that coming up?
So OneConnect is fortunate to be very uniquely positioned in China because of the wealth of business and coverage that Ping An Group has. As such, you will see that compared to any other FinTech solutions, there's a startup maybe having 1 or 2 point solutions. We have a suite of solutions ranging from front-end, middle office, back-end solutions for the bank, for the insurance company, end-to-end financial coverage. So altogether, we have about 1,000 patents in China, just OneConnect alone for the customers, as well as maybe about 50 categories of products. Yeah, so that's quite a wide range of products. We're very fortunate to have won also the FinTech Startup of the Year in 2018, so it was recently announced in China. So I believe we are one of the best, if not the best, in China, definitely. In Southeast Asia, the strength and maturity are different. For sure, given that we have a leading edge of taking the technology from China, that we're positioned well in terms of having the width. And also for the banks, they are looking for maybe going beyond adoption of single solutions from multiple FinTechs. They're looking at a strategic journey with a good FinTech company that will grow together with the bank. And there's synergy and integration in the solutions that they ultimately adopt, and I think that's where our strength is.
And how do you handle the localization challenges? Because you come from very large homogeneous market. Here, every 1 hour flight, it's a very different culture, very different markets.
Totally.
And like, do you have local partners or local players who are collaborating with you to localize it, or you're trying to build the localization yourself? Because you need to significantly localize from what you have right now.
Yes, yes. So when we first started localizing, it was just language, but we very quickly knew that much more than language. A Chinese solution is, although good, it's not going to plug and play in 12 countries in ASEAN, right? So localization, or customization is needed on top of the localization. What we did initially, given that we don't have a channel model at this point in time, is we patent technologies to actually localize a whole lot faster. So now we have filed a few patents, and our initial patents are all relating to localizing language, currency, faster than the usual method.
Wow.
So that's the first made that a little faster. But at the same time, I also strongly believe that a channel model is required. In Southeast Asia, countries are just too small and too diverse, right? There's no way I can have the scale to reach to the emerging markets, and therefore partnerships are important for sure. It will be critical to our expansion as well.
And when do you see yourself going beyond ASEAN? Like, when is the Middle East, Central Asia? So I'm looking at like how much is your runway here, and then you go beyond frontier.
In my dreams, I wish to go everywhere, but the reality is gonna, my expertise is Southeast Asia. A lot of my initial team members has hired expertise in Southeast Asia. We've received a lot of queries from Europe, from Latin America, from South Africa.
Wow.
So and so it's a matter of when to enter the market, and also at the initial stage, given that OneConnect Singapore is less than a year old right now, we're trying to find a niche focus in Southeast Asia so as we can go a little deeper with the banks here. So that will still be priority one. I don't rule out going to the other markets for sure, because the opportunities are there and the demand seems to be there as well.
What do you think is the biggest limiting factor? Like, what is that one superpower which you could like really help you accelerate your business?
Having come from 15 years of IT sales and deployment, I think the biggest difference between, I previously came from Microsoft and Hewlett-Packard, and they are 100% channel model, whereby OneConnect as well as the Ping An Group is 100% direct model. So to me at this point, the largest challenge is really how to optimize the deployment IT resources. So 60-70% of my team are IT resources.
It will be very different from your previous world.
Yes, previous world.
No more than 30%, maybe less.
In the previous world, 80% will be sales resources. So I think that's the key fundamental difference. So how to optimize your IT resources, how to make use of, how to be able to grow a partner ecosystem that could deploy this solution and yet deliver the customer satisfaction as we would deliver it. I think that would be the key thing to overcome. Yeah.
And if you would have to, because you've seen the whole journey in China, if you have to give some advice to the local fintechs, what can they do? Because on one side, they will have to collaborate or compete with a larger player like you. On the other side, they will have to work with, how do they work with the financial institution? So now they have two fronts to manage, and then ensuring there is funding and ensuring there is customers.
Yeah.
So what would be so it's like you're the elder brother for the smaller fintechs here, or slightly early stager than you in terms of maturity scale. What would be your advice or feedback to those companies in terms of what can they do to be successful and sustainable?
Yeah. I wouldn't call myself the big brother here, given that we're relatively new compared to quite a couple of others.
Just in terms of scale, the number of patents. Like, I don't think all the startups combined in Southeast Asia would have 1,000 patents. I haven't done the calculation, but I don't think they would have 1,000 live patents.
You're very kind. Yeah, I think it's tough. Right, it's tough as a fintech, especially I really hold a lot of admiration for people who has founded the company, started up the company. There's a lot to be concerned about in terms of funding, getting the solution. From what I see, the customers have a lot to choose from. So my only advice is to make sure the technology is good. Wherever is the solution that you're after, make sure you invest deep, because the customers would do all kinds of POC and they go for ultimately not a small company, a big company, but a good solution. Yeah, so getting good technology expertise, getting the solution good enough, strong enough to compete with your ecosystem, niche area would be the way.
And you see a scenario where the smaller startups can actually collaborate with you guys and be part of your larger ecosystem?
Totally. In fact, even though a smaller company, sometimes if we are comparing, say, a specific technology, someone who has been only focusing on that area might actually be able to do it better than us. So I definitely see areas of collaboration. If anything, my strength as well as my weakness are both having that wealth of solution. The first struggle I had was which out of the 50 should come to Southeast Asia.
Problem of plenty.
So we went shopping around, scouting around, looking at the 50. We pick and choose from our Southeast Asia expertise in terms of what would resonate with the Southeast Asia customers. I took about 10, but honestly speaking, out of the 10, from the majority of the customers, the data that is available in the country, I could probably deploy maybe 4 out of the 10 at this moment. Yeah, so the world is that huge, right? So I think there will be technologies that other fintech companies that have invested time and energy in that will help accelerate me maturing all the 10 that I've chosen. Yeah.
Wow, that's
For sure.
sounds like a really exciting journey for 2019 ahead for you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. This is
Thank you.
Varun Mittal from Medici Studio.